It's time for the Brown Sports Bag on WCLU, the official local sports show here in Glasgow and Barron County. And now, alongside John Butler, here is your host, James Brown.
Oh, it's breaking news time, John. We got some news here locally that is sports related. The first thing is that J.R. Estes is the new returning interim baseball coach at Barron County High School. I guess Jeff Ritchie, Warren Cunningham, when I went to Tate Spillman signing today, by the way, Tate Spillman signed with Georgetown College to play football. Congratulations to him.
Absolutely. Very well deserving.
Absolutely. Going to be a defensive back.
Up there with Aiden Eichen, who's up there playing basketball, and Abby Varney's playing basketball.
Yep. And then, of course, John Carter Myers, the son of Barron County football coach John Myers, is up there playing football. And Tate said he had discussions with them, and that was a big part of why he chose Georgetown. But also, while I was there, then Warren Cunningham, the athletic director at Barron County, told me that Jeff Ritchie has resigned effective today. Or I guess I don't know when he resigned, but effective today, J.R. Estes is the interim head coach. Okay. People may know him. He was coached there about 10 years ago. Has it been that long since he was there? I guess it has been.
Probably, yep.
Yeah, about 2015, 16, somewhere in that range was his last season. So anyway, he's taking over the program effective today.
He was helping Jeff anyway, right?
He was helping Jeff, and he was coaching third base. And, of course, Jeff had some issues. You know, he had gone through cancer treatments and this kind of stuff, and whenever we had the preseason interview with him, he talked about, you know, as long as he felt healthy, he wanted to do this. It was a way for him to kind of give back and stay involved. And so I hope he's feeling okay. I hope, the cancer has been in remission, and once you have cancer, you're forever with it. You're constantly fighting it one way or another. So I hope he's doing well, and, we wish him well, but that's the situation now as Estes is taking over. And then, of course, John Tinsley, former Barron County and Glasgow boys basketball coach, was inducted into the Court of Honor during the boys state basketball tournament over the weekend, I guess is the way it works out.
Congratulations to John.
Yep. Done well pretty much everywhere he's been.
Absolutely. Well deserving.
The only Barron County boys basketball coach to take the team to the state tournament. They got there in 1999.
Absolutely. It was a huge accomplishment, to say the least.
Yeah.
And Coach Tinsley was there during the time. I think Brian Clemens was one of the star guards on that team.
Yeah. Maybe was Mike Miller playing on that team?
Mike Miller was on that team. Yep. Haynes was one of the post players and so forth. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was Spencer Clemens was on the team as well. So, it was very, very well deserving for John.
Well, good for him. That's the news break at the top of the show there, John. So now, keeping with the theme of the lead-ins to the show these days. So now we're going to talk about the NCAA tournaments. We're going to start with the men. You nailed it last week when you said it was a chalky tournament. It's not. It's the chalkiest tournament since 2008 with 4 number ones in the Final Four.
Yeah, I kind of saw that at the end of the year. I don't think it's going out on too big of a limb, but we did talk about before the tournament started. I did not think there's going to be a lot of Cinderellas.
Yeah,
a lot of upsets, and I think it's largely due to the amount of NIL money that the power conferences can pay. Mm-hmm. The transfer portal, which basically the power conference can go basically and just go get anybody they want from the mid-level conferences. Yeah, and it's a one-year deal, but I think this is going to be a pattern until something majorly changes.
It's kind of interesting. Of course, the NIL money has an impact, but also it feels like the men's basketball has turned into mid-major farm teams for the major conference teams.
Well, that's the money.
Yeah.
And next year it's going to be more because next year colleges can now pay up to $22 million a year to their college athletes.
Right.
$22 million just in payments.
Yeah.
That's not NIL. Mm-hmm. NIL is in addition to that. 22. I mean, it's just like they can just pay people whatever. You can still go out and get whatever you want NIL wise. So
Yeah.
So I think the disparity that will grow even more because mid-level schools, say WKU for example, they don't have near the NIL money in the budget to compete with, say, Kansas and Kentucky and so forth.
Yeah, so in essence, these universities that are getting this offshoot of TV money and that kind of thing at these at the Power 4 conferences that we have now are able to funnel more of that money to the players than they have been up until this point.
Whatever they do,
yeah,
they don't need to lower tuition for average people, though.
No, that's right.
I mean, they can't do that.
No, that's yes, and also those average people must continue to pay that athletic fee.
That's right. That's the frustrating part about all of it. You're right.
Yeah, you could be at least knocking off the athletic fee and maybe paying for some people's books, but can't be doing that.
No.
Mm-mm. I've already paid my way through all that, so I'm done with it. That's everybody else's problem now, John.
In saying that, the tournament is it's fun to watch right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing the best players, and they're not the best anymore like several years ago. Just best teams had 17, 18-year-olds.
Right.
I mean, Duke has the flag kid who's 18, but you're seeing, one of the good things about NIL are that players are staying longer because they can get paid.
Yeah.
So, in that aspect, it's that part is good. The players may be more tempted to stay a little bit longer. I like that part. But the combination of no limits on the amount of transfer and the amount of money that the bigger schools can spend compared to what mid-level can spend is going to cause this. And we'll just see long term, are people's interest going to stay the same when it's the same schools year in, year out?
Yeah.
Will there be a lack of interest if you pull for a school that really has no chance anymore to advance? We'll see how all that works out long term, and maybe there will be a self-correction. I'm hoping there will be some type of regulation on what's going on.
I think going back to what you were just saying about the interest, and it's kind of played out in this tournament that most of the games, they may be 10, 12, 7, 6-point games, but a lot of them, whomever had the lead with about 15 minutes to go in the second half, did not give it up.
Except for the Florida comeback against Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Yes, in which they were down 13 with under 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, that's the exception. Yeah. The Houston-Purdue game is an exception. That was a pretty good game. But a lot of them, I don't know. I guess the better team has been able to get control of the game and maintain and not really be threatened the rest of the game.
That's correct.
And so we haven't had any of those big upsets. We haven't really had the buzzer beater.
One buzzer beater.
A couple.
Maryland.
Yeah, I guess the Houston was a buzzer beater. I mean, they were 60-60, but I mean they, beautiful inbounds play, by the way.
Correct.
But yeah, a lot of the games have not been back and forth. We've not had those moments where it's like, oh my gosh. It's been control of the game and then maintaining control of the game. And maybe that's a byproduct of what you were talking about with what we literally have are much more experienced players. They may not have always been playing together, but they've been playing college basketball for several years.
Yeah, they're 22, 23 years old rather than 18. Yeah.
So you don't have kind of the erratic plays, and like we talked about last week, you don't really have the players who have been on these mid-major teams or on these teams for a long time, and they have the experience of playing college basketball against guys who don't have the experience. We have experienced players playing against experienced players. Also, outside of Cooper Flagg and maybe Queen at Maryland and a couple of the freshmen.
Freshmen at Duke. Duke's got two big-time
freshmen.
Yeah,
they do. I mean, outside of just 4 or 5 freshmen in this tournament, and Duke really has the two of them. Mm-hmm. They've not really shown up in this tournament.
Not been much of a factor.
Yeah,
no.
It's these experienced players. And so I don't know. I guess if you're interested in the players, then maybe you like this because you're seeing these players. Maybe they played at, I don't know, Miami of Ohio or whatever, and then they've moved up and they're playing at Florida or something.
Well, Auburn's best player played 2 years at Morehead.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. And so maybe
and listen, that's an appropriate move. I can live with one transfer. He didn't transfer it 4 times. It
Yeah.
was a one-time transfer and so forth. That's understandable under any system that you could come up with, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, if you're a fan of Auburn or Florida or Houston or Duke, then you're really enjoying this. And I hope these Final Four games are, I guess, more intriguing than what we've seen so far.
I think so. I think they should be. I think right now, if my life was on the line to pick one, it's going to be Duke. I think Duke's playing better than anybody.
Yeah, they are.
Florida has not played quite as well in the tournament as they were leading into the tournament. They've had to come back a couple of times and so forth, and kind of heroic style. So they're not quite playing the same level. Auburn is playing pretty darn good, but I'm a little worried about the injury to Broom a little bit. We'll see about that. And Houston is just they're just so tough.
Their defense is so good.
They are so, but they're better offensively than they've ever been.
Yeah.
But I still think right now Duke, to me, looks like the most dominant of the dominant teams right now. Though Houston just laid out Tennessee.
Yeah.
After Tennessee pummeled Kentucky. It didn't even look, that game wasn't close, but the Houston-Tennessee game wasn't close.
No, they had 15 points at halftime, I think it was.
That's correct.
I mean
it's just unbelievable. And then Houston did the exact same thing to Tennessee. Exact same thing that Tennessee did to Kentucky. And Duke they pummeled a really good Alabama team who put up 110 points, and they made like 25 threes in the game before that against, I think it was Brigham Young.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get to 70, I don't believe, maybe they got to 70 late against Duke. So Duke, to me, has the full
No,
game.
it was 85-65 was the
85,
final.
they have everything.
Yeah.
They got great offensive players, but they're also very good defensively. They got enough depth. They got size. They got size across the board. I think it's, like I said, I think Duke, to me, is the best team, though I can see any of the 4 winning.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is interesting, and I was thinking about this after watching the weekend games, usually when you're looking at the men's NCAA tournament, you're kind of evaluating what these people are going to look like in the NBA. I don't know how many real NBA players are on these 4 teams. I think Duke has 2 and maybe 3.
I think they got 3.
Yeah, they probably have 3. They probably have the most future NBA players.
They got, they got 2 lottery picks.
Yeah, they've got the most who will be playing in the NBA for a long time, more than likely, and will have an impact.
Florida definitely has some. The guard, Clayton, big time. They got some of those bigs will have a row somewhere in the NBA.
I think, well, that's it. I think most of these other teams have guys who are going to be role players in the NBA. They may not be star breakout players
Broom
in the NBA.
would be a good player.
I think so, but I'm not sure.
Left-handed, 6'11", 6'10". Yeah.
But he's not significantly athletic when you really watch him play. He is big.
But that's the beauty of it. I'm not that doesn't bother me anymore. I'm not
No,
looking
exactly.
I like the fact that, trying to project NBA player. I just watch, just kind of enjoy the college game, Well, but it's clearly the number 1 pick, and it's going to be Cooper Flagg.
Oh, yeah.
Tremendous. He could be, and there's no telling how good he can be if he gets with the right franchise.
Yeah.
He'll improve any franchise, but there's some franchises just, whether it's Charlotte or Washington, some of those are just been dumpster fires.
Death to a career.
Right.
Well, and that was what I was getting at, is that I do kind of appreciate that what we are seeing with this is people who are college players first in a lot of these teams. They may have been at a couple of different or 3
during
different colleges.
It became popular, especially during the Cal days.
Yeah.
Of how quickly you could run players out to the NBA draft. It was just like a quick 3-month stop. We're just going to stop over, and then we're bragging about how quick it is. And maybe that part has changed a little bit. I hope so.
I do think that's the case. Now, if they would more of these guys would be with one team for a while, that'd probably be the best part.
That's correct.
It would almost be getting back to the original part of what was so enjoyable about men's college basketball coming along in the 80s with the NCAA tournament.
It's probably going to have to take contracts where they'll have to sign contracts and be buyouts like coaches and so forth.
Yeah, that that probably is where we're headed with that.
Yep.
Now, in the women's tournament, it is also pretty chalky. We do have a couple of games tonight.
Got 2 games tonight. You have UConn plays tonight, and that should be a good game. And you have USC and without Juju's.
They're playing UConn, USC and UConn, and South Carolina and UCLA tonight.
That's correct. It's is it South Carolina and UCLA? I thought South Carolina won yesterday. Didn't they?
Maybe I wrote it down wrong. Oh, no, they did win yesterday.
South Carolina
USC and UConn and Texas and TCU tonight.
Texas and TCU.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I like Texas. Mm-hmm. And I like UConn, especially with that Juju.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. USC is the only number one of this group I think is under a threat because of Juju.
And I love
injury.
some of the things that Gino is doing. He's kind of stepping up. He's making comments. He's been around long enough. The women's tournament is just the people that run the women's tournament. Sometimes I don't know what they're doing.
Do so poorly.
They do so poorly. You know, they went away from the 4 regions to 2 regions.
Yeah.
Where I guess they think for crowds, if you get 8 you get 8 teams there, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And a couple years ago, they moved the Sunday-Tuesday Final Four to Friday-Sunday, which to me doesn't make sense anyway because Friday is generally the least watched of your TV nights.
Yeah, people have things to do on Friday night.
Sunday-Tuesday would be much better.
Right.
So they moved it to Friday-Sunday. So right now, let's just say UConn plays tonight out west. I think they're in Seattle.
Yeah, was it Seattle, Spokane, whatever that is?
Yeah, Spokane.
Yeah.
And they play tonight at, I think, 8 or 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. If they win, then they play Friday night, okay, in Tampa, Florida. Mm-hmm. They have to fly from Spokane, Washington, overnight, and they'll play Friday, which is just ridiculous. The winner of the Birmingham bracket only drives in from Birmingham, which would be South Carolina. They're in it, and whoever the other team is. Is
that Texas?
No, Texas plays tonight.
Oh, right. So both games that tonight are in Washington?
Yep.
Oh, okay. That's right. Yeah, because that's what Gino was talking about was these games that are technically different regional games playing on the same day, and you have this huge gap in terms when you can practice is highly affected.
Yeah, because there's 8 teams up there to start with. His first practice up there was, I think it's 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
An hour shoot around.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of – the women's tournament, like I said – they probably shouldn't be going head-to-head with the men. Either start a week early, a week later. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to go head-to-head, take advantage of Sunday, which would be a great time to play. The only thing that's going right now this Sunday is baseball.
Right.
And then Tuesday night, where you have a national platform at night. But, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, they are – I mean, he was talking about that, and they are – it's been done poorly, especially since they decided to do it with just those 2 locations of 4 regions, which is also just nonsensical.
It is.
Because you are kind of – I mean, if you're UConn, you have a big draw. You have UConn playing USC.
Well, your fan base can't go that far.
Right.
Even Kim Mulkey said that yesterday from LSU was playing up there. He said, listen, we got a great fan base, but they can't.
Yeah.
Spokane, they can't do that.
Right.
So, they need to fix some things, and it's so easily – it's almost like what – I don't know. It's just so many things are just amazing to me how people in leadership make decisions like that. Mm-hmm. Just like USC and UCLA and Oregon and all those teams joining the Big Ten.
Right.
There's no long-term vision when you see how much it kills your other sports.
It's like making business decisions on a monthly basis.
Right.
Right. You just what does it look like this month? Well, we need to make a different decision. It's
and
not
I think
looking
UConn's
right.
playing better than everybody.
Yeah.
And I think they'll win tonight, but I do think it's going to be tough on them on that. Whoever they play on Friday, that's a tough ordeal for them. But I think they'll definitely win tonight, and I think they got a heck of a shot to get back to win a national championship.
Yeah. Anything else from the world of basketball there, John?
Nope. It's looking forward to the tonight's games. I'll watch it tonight and the Final Four for both of them this weekend.
Yep. All right. It's Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Welcome back to the Brown Sports Bag. This is James Brown, John Butler, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. we actually got in quite a few spring sports games last week, John, because Barron County's baseball team played 4 games. Glasgow's baseball team played 3. Barron County softball played 4. Glasgow's softball played 5 games. Weather's not so kind to us probably this week. We may be kind of slack, and then everybody will be in Florida the next week, so we'll see how things go. But I guess let's start with the Barron County boys with the baseball team.
4-5.
Yep. They went 2-2 on the week. Continue to play a tough schedule, John.
Yes, they just a little recap. They lost to South Warren 7-0. Came back and beat a good Franklin team 10-2. Mm-hmm. Cameron Crawford and Skylar Potter were the pitchers. Came back and beat Grayson 9-2, and then last Saturday lost 12-8 to Adair County. It's interesting. Adair's got a kid that was a big post player for him in basketball. His last name is Coomer.
Yeah. And,
of course, Adair lost in the first round of the state tournament to Bowling Green on Wednesday. Well, Coomer played against Barron, hit 2 homers.
Yeah, promptly walked out there and got to work.
Yeah, so 4-5 with the schedule that they've started off with, I don't think is bad at all. Jackson Reese is hitting .423.
Yeah.
I just looked at some of the stats. Sutton Hyde, .323, 11 RBIs, 2 homers. So things like that. So 4-5 with that schedule. I don't think it's with wins against Franklin, with wins against Bowling Green, wins against Russell County. I mean, those are 3 top teams. So not a disgrace to be 4-5 right now, to be perfectly honest with you.
You know, also I think the Adair County game was the first game back for Joey Myers, who's been out with an injury.
Okay.
I think he had a broken hand or something like that during the offseason. So he's one of the guys that they expected to be a huge contributor both on the mound and at the plate this year. So, you know, if you think about it that way, they're 4-5 against a tough schedule and without one of their better, pitchers and hitters in the lineup at this point in the season. So, it'll be good to have him back. That'll be a big boost for them. But the other guys have really taken up the slack in the meantime. Like I said, we'll see what this week looks like in terms of getting the games played because the weather's supposed to be pretty sketchy all week.
Tough week with rain, yep.
And then Glasgow
got their first 2 wins of the year.
Yep.
They're 2-5, and they went 2-1 last week. Beat Metcalf 6-4. Went to Greene County and defeated Greene 2-1, and then lost 1-0 to Logan. So by the scores, you can tell their pitching, which has been their strength.
Yeah.
It continues to pitch well. Against Greene, it was Landon Martin and Garrett Shields combined to only allow 2 runs against Greene. And then against Logan, they lost 1-0. Carter Hodges pitched the entire game. He had 9 strikeouts and no earned runs. So good performance on the mound.
Yeah, they are playing the kind of baseball that even though they're 2-5, you can, as long as you can defend, as long as you got good pitching and everything, at some point in time you feel like the hitting is going to come around in the course of the season.
Yeah, you hope so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, rarely do you go a whole season and not unable to hit the ball. And it's not even like they're not able to hit the ball. They're just not manufacturing runs at the moment. So it's kind of a throwback Glasgow team if you think about the old days. I mean, they were a team that they were going to pitch and defend, and they were going to find a way to scrap around and get some runs. And they, Coach Royce made a career out of that kind of baseball.
Yep.
And Cameron Garman coming out of that system, I mean, maybe that's what they're kind of looking at. They just got to figure out how to get some runs on the board at this point. And then Barron County softball team, they also played a pretty rough schedule during the week. Two of the games maybe not.
Yeah, they're 3-3. Defeated Russellville 16-2. Defeated Glasgow, got the first district win 10-0. Then lost to Greenwood 12-1. Now Greenwood's undefeated.
Right.
And then lost to Assumption 11-6. Now Assumption is private school out of Louisville. Who's 9-2 and the only team to defeat South Warren. They defeated South Warren 14-13.
Yeah.
So this is a quality team. So Barron's 3 losses are to South Warren, Greenwood, and Assumption. And I'm guessing when the first poll comes out, there'll be all 3 of those will be in the top 10.
Yeah.
I'd like to give stats, but I haven't seen any stats yet. So
right.
I'd like to give stats on players and so forth. But so far, none of the stats have been posted. But they got the win against Glasgow. There's a run rule. Not unexpected last Tuesday against a very, very young Glasgow team, but 3-3. I will say in the district, though, Allen County is undefeated, too.
That district is looking really tough this year.
Now, Allen has not played the best of competition.
No.
but they have run ruled about everybody they play.
Yeah. Last year –
another very young team, too.
Yeah, and last year the interesting thing with Allen was they underperformed probably due to the injuries and that kind of stuff.
Youth.
Both.
Yeah,
youth.
Yeah, but they're still 8th graders, freshmen, some 7th graders. But they seem like to be they're a little bit more healthy.
Yeah. So they're a team to look out for. Warren East, obviously, it's a tough district. It's kind of for Glasgow, it's kind of unfortunate they're in that district because it looks like it's kind of circled back around to where Warren East, Allen County, and Barron are all about the same level.
Right.
And so it's going to be an interesting battle at the top end of the district. It's just Glasgow's young pitchers, probably more than anything.
Probably 3 of the top 5 teams in the region.
Yes.
But South Warren and Greenwood are the 2 top.
Yeah, right.
But then it's 3, 4, and 5 after that.
Yeah. And so none of them right now are close to South Warren and not really that close to Greenwood.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And I'm curious to see when Greenwood and South Warren play each other what that looks like. Because the thing for Barron in their loss to Greenwood is they did put the ball in play against the pitcher. It's just that they just weren't able to get any runs, and their only run was a home run by Brawley Adala. So, they did some things. They just couldn't do enough things. And then they basically had one bad inning. They gave up, I think, 7 runs in one inning, and then
against Greenwood.
Yeah, against Greenwood, and so that was it was a rough inning. They had some walks, some mistakes, that kind of stuff. So in the end, the final score was probably not as bad as it really looked, competitively speaking. It was a more competitive game than what we saw when they played South Warren in the first game of the season.
18-1.
Yeah, which is not surprising. South Warren, they might be the best team in the state. So. And that's why I'm curious to see when South Warren and Greenwood play each other what that looks like. But anyway, and then the Glasgow Lady Scotties, they did get their first win against Webster County. Kerrigan Hagan had an outstanding outing. She's an 8th grader. I think as a pitcher, she has a potential. Sometimes gives up some walks and that kind of stuff, and puts them in a bad situation. But they won that game 3-2. So that was a good defensive game for the Lady Scotties as well.
Yeah, they lost 2 district games last week.
Right, yeah.
They lost to Allen 12-1 and Barron 10-0. Lost to LaRue 12-2 and Webster County. They defeated them 3-2. So, it's always nice to get off that slide that you're on, get that first win and so forth. And they, when you're playing Clinton's and Allen and Barron, even Clinton's is pretty good too.
Oh, yeah.
So, they faced some good competition and so forth with an extremely, as we mentioned, extremely young team.
Yeah. Yeah, they ended up, as you mentioned, they ended up losing to Barron and Allen that were district games and to Clinton County, and Clinton is not what people might expect from Clinton because they've had a young team coming up with Coach Messer's daughter pitching and that kind of stuff.
They were about 500 last year.
Yeah, and they're a much better team than people probably realize. They may be, I'd say they're probably the best team in the 16th district this year. I would guess.
I guess, yes.
Anything else from the baseball / high school softball you can think of?
No, I think we got it covered.
All right, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Welcome back. James Brown, John Butler. We're presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We're here every Monday at 4 o'clock on WCLU 103.1 and 104.7. Well, we are.
Close.
Yeah, you're right. About 4:05, somewhere in that window. The news and whatnot. So I say 4 o'clock because that's when we're in here. We're getting ready for the show. Major League Baseball got started for opening day. Was what, last Thursday?
Thursday,
officially. There was a game before that remembered.
2 games over Japan, yes.
That's right. 2 games before that didn't everybody forgot actually counted. They were so far ahead of the actual opening day. The Reds are 1-2. They opened against the Giants.
Yes.
I guess, they lost, 6-4 and 6-3 and won, 3-1, I think?
I don't remember. I just remember opening game. They tough loss. They were up 3-1 in the ninth, I think, 3-1 or 3-1 in the ninth, and they had their closer in, or whoever's going to be their closer, and gave up 3 in the ninth to lose.
Yeah,
that's kind of a gut punch to start off the year. Their closer is hurt, so they're kind of going by committee, and that was disappointing. But yeah, they start off 1-2 at the first home stand. It's a long year. You play 162.
Yeah,
but so we'll see.
I guess that was the question: was it a promising 1-2? Or?
No, I mean no. I don't think you take any. I don't think there's anything you can take from it other than it kind of hurts your soul a little bit when you give up ninth inning leads.
Right.
When you blow saves, that's not really good for the morale. But but I have great confidence in their manager, Terry Francona, great manager. So we'll see. Dodgers. I don't think they'll go 162-0, even though they're the best team. But they start off 6-0. They swept the Cubs in Japan, and then swept the Tigers, who are not bad.
Yeah.
To go 6-0 to start off the year. The Yankees are undefeated too. They swept Milwaukee and hit it was either Saturday or Sunday. First 3 hitters led off with homers.
Yeah. So what's the most wins in an MLB season?
I think Seattle, about 10 years ago maybe, had like 114, 15, something like that. And then they lost in the playoffs.
Right.
But the Dodgers are clearly deep enough and good enough I would never take that bet, but they are deep enough and good enough to challenge them.
Yeah.
They are that, they've got that much dominating pitchers. They got Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, and they got Ohtani, just 3 of the top, probably 10 hitters in the game on the roster. So they're going to be hard to beat.
I guess that's it. I mean, the question is, this is a Dodgers team that has kind of loaded up for a season like this. I mean, they've been real close the last few years.
Well, they were World Series champions last year.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying is like they're almost like the Golden State Warriors when they won 72 games in a way, or 73 games, is that all the talent is there to be perhaps the best team in the history of Major League Baseball.
Yes, probably.
Record-wise. Now, you could dispute other parts of it, but record-wise.
Correct.
And I'm curious to see how motivated they are to try to prove that point, because the talent is there to prove it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're that deep, you can sometimes what sidetracks teams can be injuries.
Yeah.
And, they've got enough players. Now, if Ohtani goes out, that's a huge loss, obviously. But they are going to be hard, like I said, very, very difficult to beat in a series. Anybody can lose a game or in a series with that talent and depth. They'll be hard to handle. And you would think they can probably handle the pressure since they won it last year.
Right.
It's not like there's pressure that they never won. They've won it before.
Yeah.
But they're really good.
What do you think of the Yankees bowling pin bat? Have you seen this?
Not enough to comment yet, but it is interesting that there's this new bat, and it seemed like, the Yankees have used it, and Yankees have been red hot to start the year off.
Yeah.
And there are some other players using it. The only thing I can tell is that generally, the handle is thinner than the barrel of the bat.
Right.
And it looks like to me the barrel of the bat goes down longer. So you have more – you don't have to hit it perfectly on the nose of the barrel. There's more places on the bat that you can perhaps hit it from. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. If it's actually legal, if it's what's going on with it.
Well, I was reading, so like the measurements of it, it does not exceed the allowed circumference of the barrel of the bat, and it does not exceed the length. It's just that the wood, so to speak, is kind of repurposed into a thicker area and then tapered off at the end to some degree. And I guess when I was reading about it, the theory was
it's called the torpedo, right?
Yeah, I think that's what some people call it, a torpedo. I was reading some people referred to it as a bowling pin because if you stand it up, it's got the shape of a bowling pin.
Right.
And just because it tapers off at the end more.
Yeah, the handle.
Yeah, and so it was kind of a fascinating theory when I was reading about it, because there's this guy he was a physicist, and then he got a job with the Yankees, and he asked the players, what do you need to hit better, and they were like, well, we need a better sweet spot, and so they kind of just collected everything.
A bigger sweet spot.
Yeah, a bigger sweet spot. And so they've kind of collected everything, but, in essence, the mass of the bat is unchanged. They just shifted the mass of the bat into the sweet spot area better. And I'm sure there will be people who'll, balk at the whole notion of it.
Well, it's not unreasonable to think that somebody's trying to get an edge.
Oh, yeah.
It happens in baseball, whether it's steroids or
fingernail files
or whatever. That's right. So we'll see how it plays out here.
Yeah, there's defensive shifts. There are all kinds of things they're always cooking up in baseball to try to get an edge.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, but I do. I mean, if you can find that story, I think I was reading about it on the ESPN.com. You should look it up because I'm curious to see what we might revisit it next week. You can look it up and. Right now, there's some other players who are using it, but the Yankees as an organization have, I think, 6 or 7 players that are using this bat and look pretty effective on the first weekend. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it's like everything else. Maybe people figure out a way around it, and then it looks good early, but it doesn't really mean a whole hill of beans in the long run. I guess there's not really anything else to really think about for the MLB at the moment. Anything else you can think of?
No, I mean, it's just, like I said, just the very start of a long, long year. But, opening weekend's always a sign of the spring and things of that nature and so forth. And
the days are longer.
And so forth, yeah.
All right. Well, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's Glasgow. When we come back, we're going to talk about the boys' state basketball tournament and a little bit of track.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, the Bowling Green Purples survived 2 overtime games and reached the state finals where they lost to Great Crossing, which was not surprising.
Yeah, we've heard of Great Crossing before.
Yeah, we were up there for a football game.
That's exactly right.
And they
that's the Scott County school that's split up.
Yeah, I think in 2019, I think is when it opened.
Beautiful school campus, Georgetown, and they've quickly become a sports power in everything they do.
Yeah, they're sort of like South Warren in a way. I mean, almost the day the doors opened, they were right there on the state level stage and everything.
Winning state title in basketball, and within 5 years. The only other school to do it that quickly is Logan County.
Yeah,
first year.
Is that right?
Logan County won in 1986, I believe. First year of consolidation. Or maybe it's 84.
Well, and they have Malachi Moreno, who is the Mr. Basketball.
7-footer.
Yeah, he's going to Kentucky. He's arguably the best player in the state.
Yeah. We give Bowling Green a lot of credit, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I can give DG credit. DG sometimes takes his fair share of criticism, but fantastic job.
Yeah.
With this, wasn't even close to the best Bowling Green team I've seen. Not even close.
The one thing I would say, they do have Deuce Bailey, and that guy is a difference maker.
He's not even their best basketball player, but he's a winner, though.
Yes, exactly.
But to have a small team and things like that, to beat a really good Adair County team in overtime, and then to come back and literally come back and beat Ashland, in which they were down double digits at one time.
13 or so.
And came back and beat Ashland in overtime, blew out South Oldham in the semifinals, and then they were way behind. They were down, I think, close to 20 against Great Crossing, got it within 6 and a 4. So give those guys a lot of credit. Yeah,
that was considering how the season went. I mean, they were obviously they were good.
Oh yeah, they were good.
But I really didn't think the team that we saw
got a great draw.
They did.
Got a great draw. A tough draw. I mean, Adair could have easily, if Adair beat Bowling Green, they could have been in the finals.
Yeah.
Because St. X went out in the first round.
Yeah,
and they were in their bracket.
Yeah. So it was an impressive run by them, but I think as much as anything, going back to sometimes a player may not be the best player in the sport, but they are the person who has the biggest impact. And I think Deuce Bailey fits that bill for Bowling Green. I think Tate Spillman fit that bill for Barron County in football and basketball. They are just guys who elevate everybody around them. And when you need something to happen, they seem to be the people who make things happen.
Right.
Either they come up with a big steal, they come up with a big defensive play, or in Bailey shot, they hit the game winner against Adair in overtime. They may not be the best at that particular thing, but they just kind of elevate everybody around them. And it was just an impressive run by them. But you're right. I mean, Malachi, they had no answer for Malachi Moreno.
No, but Bowling Green biggest player, 6'4".
Yeah. Joe Hurt was out there, I think, trying to defend him.
That's right.
But it was a good run for them, and it was an interesting state tournament. There were some really good games, and some, for the most part, most of the games, with the exception of maybe 3 of them, were good games. There were 3 that weren't good.
That's correct. Tennis was down.
Yeah,
and that was partly it's a later state tournament competing against Kentucky and Tennessee on that Thursday night, and a lot of the Adair going out early hurt.
Yeah,
because playing. It's weird. They put Adair Bowling Green at 10:00.
Yeah,
and they could. You can't change who they play, but you can change the times, which they did. And why you put Adair at 10 makes no sense at all.
Well, it's
zero sense. I mean, that's just crazy. So a lot of the schools that would bring people were out early. You didn't. So that hurt, but I think the biggest crowd was 12,000. They had a couple under 10, which is unheard of, to be honest with you. So that part, this last year's boys state tournament was tremendous in terms of money and so forth. But you also had the kid the kid from Lyon County, Travis Perry, and the kid out of Harlan County. So you had Harlan County bring a lot of people. You had Marino, but he was out of Great Crossing. Yeah, which is anytime it's a school that's kind of in a large city that's split in two. You're not going to have the suburban county following, right?
Yeah, the suburban schools, the city schools do not draw the same crowd as the county schools.
You don't have the attachment as a Barron County or something like that. So so the attendance was down a little bit, but there were some good games. Mainly Bowling Green played a lot of them.
Yeah, they did.
But it was but. Congratulations to Bowling Green, representing the 4th region quite well, like Bowling Green and Warren Central normally do.
Yeah. I think 5 of the last 10 years, Warren Central and Bowling Green have made it to the finals, and Warren Central won the one. And so, the top
Bowling
end.
Green won a state tournament too.
Yeah, well, more than 10 years ago.
Was it?
Maybe barely. They beat Scott in the championship. I don't know exactly how long ago, but within this time frame, I guess you're right. I mean, it's been a pretty good run here for the top 2 teams in the 4th region. They've made themselves – people should be aware that they're not just the 2 of the top teams in the 4th region. They're 2 of the top programs in the state. And that's something maybe sometimes we overlook. I mean, because –
But it's true. You name it. Softball.
Yep. Soccer.
Top teams in the state.
Yep. So baseball's been right there.
Baseball's been right there as well. So, it's – It's in most sports, not all. Yeah. But in most sports, you're going to see that.
Real quick before we get out of here, I want to give a quick update from some track results. We'll get these all online on WCLUradio.com so you can check them out. But at LaRue County, Cynthia Austin won the 100-meter dash and was second in the triple jump. Jarek Martin, these are for Glasgow, won the long jump. He's doing track for the first year. Aaliyah Haskins was second in the discus, and then Friday at Lindsey Wilson, Brody Miller was third in 1,600 for Barron. Gracie Reed was second in the 1,600 girls. And Raleigh Wilson won the discus, and I think she was third in the shot put. She's one of the better ones in the 3A. So look for another outstanding track season. Like I said, we'll have the results. This is the Brown Sports Bag. James Brown, John Butler, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
You've been listening to the Brown Sports Bag on WCLU. Be sure to join James and John again next Monday at 4 for another edition of the Brown Sports Bag.